Today I'm going a little crazy. I'm visiting the other side of the world for just 5 days. The land of the Kiwis, the duckbills, the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbits. New Zealand is a fabulous dream destination for many, and unfortunately for Europeans at least, it's just as fabulously far away on the other side of the globe. So you usually plan well in advance and for several weeks once you're flying so far away. But what if you're already relatively close, for example on a trip to Australia, and actually have a little extra time? I didn't postpone anything anymore, but took the chance and flew over to New Zealand for just a few days. The best decision ever. So here we go for an incredible 5 days only through New Zealand, North and South Island. Of course you cannot see everything in New Zealand in 5 days, that's impossible. So this is not a comprehensive report, so to speak, but it's a report about what you can see in a rather short time, because so many people say, well, I cannot go here or there now because there's not enough time, and when I want to go there or here, I want to see everything in detail, and then sometimes they just don't go because they never find the time. And sometimes it's just nicer to not see everything, but to just see something of a place instead of not going at all. Anyway, we're gonna have a look at New Zealand, explore New Zealand in just 5 days. So that's 2 days on the South Island and 3 days on the North Island, and we try to see as much beautiful places as possible. And today we are going from Christchurch to Lake Tekapo and on to Lake Pukaki, which is very close to Mount Cook. And you might also recognize some of the pictures in that area from Lord of the Rings, because some scenes of Lord of the Rings were shot there. Driving in New Zealand, by the way, is not complicated at all. You just need your driver's license and also an international driver's license, in case your driver's license is not in English language. And that international driver's license you get normally from your city hall. Other than that, you just need to know that you have to drive on the left side. So this is left side traffic country, and very nice and educated traffic here. Nice drivers. It's not gonna get chaotic here. The drive from Christchurch Airport to Lake Pukaki takes about 3 hours, and I left a little late, namely around noon, but it was still a great and relaxing drive, more and more into perfect nature. Lake Tekapo sets the mood for the neighboring Lake Pukaki. The nature is wonderfully untouched, and the views extend over the entire lake without hundreds of boats and without the crowds to the mountain range behind it. Now this was already so impressive. Now this Lake Tekapo, I'm really impressed, and I did not expect it to be that fantastic. And what is also really special is the landscape. You have this flat landscape, almost without houses. Maybe there's a farm here and there, but there's no big villages, and there's no big like chalets or villas or other farms up and down the hills. You just have the flat land, some sheep, and empty land, and that's so beautiful and very different from Europe, where you have houses actually everywhere. No matter where you go, you always will see a house somewhere on the horizon at least, and normally much more than that. Now look at this, isn't this just amazingly beautiful? Lake Pukaki. I never thought I would ever get here. And it's so beautiful. The air is crisp and clear and so clean. I mean, look at the light, beautiful light. And you see the clouds coming over Mount Cook, coming from the Tasman Sea side of the South Island of New Zealand. Just breathtakingly beautiful. The lake stretches quite a long way, and every minute there's another breathtaking view of the lake and finally of beautiful Mount Cook or Aoraki at the end of the road. On the second day we'll look at the other side of Lake Pukaki, where some Hobbit scenes were filmed before we go to Christchurch Airport in the evening to get to the North Island. But now let's eat, and of course there's New Zealand lamb, beer and way too many wonderful, beautiful calories. Well, the night in this really cold New Zealand was wonderful, but now let's go and have breakfast before continuing our trip. Those of you who know my channel know that I also love to present food, but if you have so little time to see so much, you should avoid a long breakfast. So with a coffee we go straight to the street, and by car we go through Middle-earth again to Lake Pukaki, which was a major filming location for the Hobbits trilogy. With a little imagination you can see the scenes from Middle-earth. New Zealand has always been a dream destination, but it became infinitely popular thanks to the mega success of The Lord of the Rings and the Hobbits trilogy, which were filmed in New Zealand. Lake Town from the Hobbits was built on Lake Pukaki and later dismantled, but I think a few remains can still be seen. And a little later here in the report we will of course visit the Shire on the North Island, or at least Hobbiton. On the road to the lakes there's also Birkie Pass, a tiny village with interesting little colorful workshops and a few alpacas running around, and there's also Geraldine, which is great for a coffee or two. Here we are on a short trip to New Zealand, and in 2 days you can at least experience all these great places from Christchurch. With more time, for example, if you take the full 5 days for the South Island, you should continue driving to the south of the South Island, because just a few hours further there's Fiordland and Queenstown waiting with similarly gigantic nature. We, however, are going to Christchurch Airport now with a mix of sadness that we don't have more time and excitement about what we've seen anyway, because now we are off to the North Island, and since we're in the southern hemisphere it will definitely be warmer in the north.
Beautiful country, Chucky set out to visit the guardians of this world.
Kia ora and welcome aboard this Air New Zealand flight.
If you like this and the well over 100 flight and travel reports on the two Traversing Flight channels, then please give me a thumbs up, comment on the video and subscribe to the channel with the little bell next to it to make sure that you don't miss out on any of the exciting videos that are released here. You will help the channel with all its free content to grow and become more visible. Keep looking around Traversing Fly, there's for sure a few more reports that are just the right ones for you. It's so great to have you here. When I visit a place for the first time, I find it always exciting to see what is as expected and what is completely different. Auckland's most famous building is probably the Sky Tower. In between there's a few historical buildings such as churches from the 19th century in, let's say, neo-Gothic style. The city is hilly and reminds me a bit of medium-sized US cities with high-rise buildings, a few small parks and not an incredible number of not incredibly interesting buildings in the center, such as the town hall. But Auckland has very beautiful surroundings. There are marinas and beaches, and Auckland's skyline with the harbour is of course great. There's some beautiful views, but of course you drive to the other side of the bay to get that one famous view. Now we're starting our trip over the North Island of New Zealand, and of course it's very difficult to decide what to do and where to go. However, I decided to start the first day with a visit to Coromandel. That's a peninsula with a mountainous forest national park, and behind that we have very nice beaches, and there's also Cathedral, Cove and some hot sand beaches. That means when you dig a little in the sand, you'll find some hot water, and that's warming up the sand from geothermal springs over there. So I hope that I'm lucky and that I'm finding some hot parts of the beach, and if not, it's just gonna be a nice beach, and that's great too.
Ausfahrt links nehmen.
And on the way to the beach, there's already a first highlight here, and that's fern trees. The first time I see them in my life. Look at this, beautiful. That's in Coromandel forest. Look at the beautiful fern trees. Just stunning, beautiful. One thing that's really very obvious is how much warmer the weather is here on the North Island compared to the South Island. In the South Island, you've got like 0 degrees centigrade. That's freezing temperatures at night. And here in the North Island in the daytime, it gets up to 20 degrees. Actually, right now it's 16 degrees, but it feels really warm at like 20 in the sun. And it's such a big difference. It's so much nicer, to be honest. And this is the New Zealand winter. On the way to Hot Water Beach, it's nice to take a short detour to the small town of Aroha with a beach, a hill and a lagoon, and then we continue to a beach that 1 hour later became a highlight of my travel memories. So then let's see if we find some hot sand and hot water under the sand here at this hot water beach. The beach itself is really, really spectacular. Look at this. Beautiful, beautiful. When it looks, I found the spot. There's quite a lot of people with shovels, and I don't have a shovel, but it looks so amazing. So this is really crazy. There's really, really hot water, just half a centimeter or half an inch under the surface of the sand. You just have to dig a tiny little bit, and then you're in warm water, and up to really hot water, depending on if the seawater just spilled in or not. Just really, really crazy and so nice. Oh my god. And if you see this, there's some bubbles coming out here. This is like really boiling hot water, and you better don't step into there, which I just did. It's like burning feet for a second. Really incredible. I'm just kneeling now down here. Really, really nice. And of course I'm gonna lie down here now, but I will spare you that quite different look. So anyway, I'm gonna try this now with my shirt on. That's great too. And it's so wonderful. You lie down, you have this wonderful warm sand under yourself. Then on the side is the warm water, and then out there is the super cold Pacific Ocean. How awesome is this? Oh my god. Now this was one of the best experiences in my travel life, because this was not man-made, but this was made by nature. Nature put hot water just under the sand surface in front of this ice-cold Pacific Ocean, and it was just phenomenal. And big thanks also to H&M that their long-sleeve t-shirts are good for an emergency towel, because I had nothing prepared and I needed to just experience all this, so I just took off what I could take off and left the rest on, and in the end I just dried myself off with a t-shirt. I know that's the worst advertisement ever, and it is not an advertisement anyway. So well, it was a fantastic experience, and now I really need some really hot tea, because out here the air is really cold, but wonderful. The Coromandel Peninsula is known for its fern forests, hot beaches and exciting coastline, including Stingray Bay and Cathedral Cove. Now that was really fantastic. What an experience. And that's really worth the trip from Auckland only for this, and even from further, I would say. But I'm really happy that I put on my sheep here now to get a little warm from that, because of course the air is cold. And let's see if I will walk over another beach now, but the experience was just fantastic. So of course I'm way too curious to not see the Cathedral Cove, and it's sunset already now, and Cathedral Cove is not on the good side for the sunset because it's just facing eastwards. Anyway, I just want to see it, and I just covered up really warm. Behind these islands lie thousands of kilometers of ocean. The whole coastline is beautiful, and the path towards Stingray Bay and Cathedral Cove is quite enchanting or spooky in the late evening. Well, in the end I didn't make it to Cathedral Grove because after running for quite a while, really running, there was a sign saying it's another 30 minutes walk to Cathedral Grove, and actually sunset was about 5 or 10 minutes ago. So I better walk back to the car now so I don't get eaten by a kiwi. After so much adventure, there's a great restaurant waiting in the town of Te Aroha, the Duck and Cover. I had pork belly, but very different from at home in the best way, with scallops, fennel and oranges, followed by creme caramel with kaffir, lemon, hazelnut streusel, rhubarb and blueberry sorbet, and then something else because it was so fantastic. By chance I came across another highlight on this trip, the house with no nails. Well, on this trip I actually don't talk about hotels or other places to stay for the night, but here I have to make an exception because this is such a special place, the house with no nails. It's such a, first of all, a beautiful place in the middle of nowhere, but then also very close to some major attractions like Hobbiton or the hot springs of Rotorua. But also here, this is a great example of how to make something really great from something really bad, because there was a huge storm here 30 years ago and that just knocked down huge trees, and the owner here asked the people here if he could help pulling away the trees and to just keep the trees in the end. And from that really hard work, he had the trees to build this house. And I mean, this is really from wood that was just falling over here, got knocked down 30 years ago. And for example, the whole roof work or the ceiling work is made from one eucalyptus tree, and then also part of the flooring. And then from one other tree is the side parts, the wooden parts of the house, and everything got put together without nails. They made their own wooden nails to bring together the wood parts. So it's such an impressive house, and the hosts are just wonderful. Wonderful people, so welcoming, so accommodating that you hardly find anywhere anymore. So this is really must see almost, because it's such a fantastic thing, and this is one of the memorable parts of my stay, I think. But there's so much to see today. We have to go to Hobbiton and Rotorua, where the hot springs are. So let's go. And we're on the road again, going to Hobbiton, and that's a place where some scenes for Lord of the Rings were shot. So that's actually the place where the Hobbits were, but I think they're not there anymore. Let's have a look. So we are visiting the Shire, and Hobbiton is the film set built into the landscape where the Hobbits' village scenes were filmed. The entrance fee is not cheap for only seeing the filming location, as there's no amusement park behind it, but it's still worth it because the whole area looks so alive, as if a hobbit was about to step out of a door. And at the end there's beer in the original pub, the Green Dragon Inn. There's just one thing you need to know if you have further plans: the tour is not short. So Hobbiton takes longer than I thought, and that's more than 2 hours. That's how long the tour takes, but it was really worth it. But that means I don't make it to Rotorua in time for the geothermal park, because last entry is at 2:30 and they close the park at 4. But at the same time, this gave me the chance to see the Blue Springs. Sometimes something good comes out from something not so good, And I mean, the blue springs I wouldn't have made actually otherwise, and they're just phenomenal. So beautiful, and there's nobody. So today is the third day on the North Island of New Zealand, and today we're going to Rotorua and its geothermal park with a geysir and also some other hot springs, of course, mud springs, and before that we're going to Kakahi Falls. Anyway, I'm not so 100% fit today, and this is reality TV, so I say even when things don't go 100%, because I think maybe the ice-cold Pacific waters and the hot springs were a little too much for me, but never mind. It was an amazing experience, and I'm looking really forward now to Rotorua Geothermal Park. But first, we go to Kakahi Falls. Kakahi Falls are part of the Hell's Gate Geothermal Park, and the further in the park you go, the more pungent the smell of sulfur is rising from the springs. The gates to hell are really open here, or at least to volcanic depths. The plants and some birds don't seem to mind the stench, and the Kakahi Falls themselves weren't that spectacular, but the whole area is really impressive, with its various hot springs with mud, steam and water, and as I said, lots and lots of sulfur. Now this is a really breathtaking experience in the best sense of the word, because here everything just smells of sulfur and rotten eggs, and I'm sure the smell is just digging into my skin right now to stay there for a couple of days. Anyway, it's really quite an experience. The whole park is called Hell's Gate. That's a very fitting name, I guess. And you have to pay entrance to get to the fall, but also to see all the rest here. And you can also take a mud bath here or just a hot tub, and you're gonna smell of sulfur for quite a long time, I guess. The heart of Rotorua erupts 15 times a day. Pohutu Geysir is the large geyser in the southern hemisphere and does not erupt in one burst, but the eruption builds up for minutes. Very impressive. So behind me you still see the geyser. What a spectacle! In the same park there's a Kiwi breeding station and a Maori art institute where old traditions and crafts are maintained, and you can also admire particularly beautiful exhibits such as coats made entirely of Kiwi feathers that were worn by high-ranking Maori. You can also buy handicrafts which are very high in quality and far from tourist junk, and therefore understandably not exactly cheap. 3 days have flown by and I experienced so much. Of course, a hardcore trip like this one is not intended for relaxation, but I'm happy that I've got at least an impression of New Zealand now, because who knows whether the famous wish to go there one day would actually become reality. Of course, a time frame of 7 to 10 days would be perfect for the North Island alone. Then you can also visit the North Cape with endless sand dunes, see the spectacular volcanoes of Mount Tongariro and Mount Taranaki, or take the time to hike to some of the many waterfalls. And the rain has disappeared, but we also jumped 2 months into the future, and especially almost 20,000 kilometers away from New Zealand over here to Cologne in Germany. When it's getting cold here, New Zealand is getting its summer and the other way around. Well, I hope you really enjoyed this report. If yes, give me a thumbs up. And with over 100 reports about destinations and airlines worldwide on all continents, I'm sure there's still quite a lot for you to check out here on this channel. And how about watching this report here right away? That's really worth it. See you again very soon here at Travel, Sing, Fly.